In this video, we have a look at vehicles traveling in an outer left and right lane, simultaneously wanting to take a common middle lane. In the animation, if I just stop it here, you'll see that both red vehicles have a slower vehicle ahead of them, and so wanting to avoid the slower traffic, both try to move into this common middle lane and make contact. So whenever we're changing lanes, we always want to be well aware of what is happening around us, especially taking note of our rear view mirrors to see any vehicles coming at speed or vehicles that are alongside us or in adjacent lanes, perhaps wanting to do what we're trying to do, as is depicted in this scenario, take a common lane along with us. And so we've got to be aware of such a situation. So in a real life example of this, the camera's vehicle has a slower vehicle ahead of it, so it's wanting to move into the faster lane. Likewise, this vehicle has a slower moving truck ahead of it, and so also wants to take the middle lane, and so both try to merge into that lane at the same time. Similar situation where these two vehicles, both red drivers, are wanting to merge into a middle lane. Now, I've depicted this in a freeway situation, but it could be along slow moving traffic, as we'll see in the real life clip, but just demonstrating the point again. So try to be aware of what's happening around us. So in the real life clip, slower moving traffic, the camera is wanting to move into the quicker middle lane, and so tries to pull across here, but we'll see a vehicle in the left lane wanting to do the same thing. Now, what I just want to point out in stopping the video here is there's a solid white line. So the camera could just make the assumption, well, it's free to move into this lane because of the solid white line, and so we won't have any vehicles trying to move into the quicker lane, but that's not the case. So we can't assume that people will stick to the rules of the road and obey a solid white line. And so that's exactly what happens here. The vehicle tries to move across and they make connection. So always in a scenario where you've got a faster moving lane, know that the others being impatient and wanting to move into the quicker lane. So where you try to change lanes to move into a quicker lane, always be in expectation that others are going to want to do the same. In this animation, we have a vehicle, and maybe not so clear, but it is pulling a trailer. And so we've also got to be aware of that if we're moving into a lane, changing lanes, that another vehicle may be pulling something. It could be a longer trailer. And so we don't want to just account or calculate for this vehicle alongside us moving into the lane and judging exactly that you time your change into the lane when this vehicle passes, because it may be pulling something, and so we miscalculate, and then we have the collision with the trailer. So here's a situation like that. You see the black vehicle wanting to pull into the middle lane. So it sees a vehicle coming down the side here, tries to calculate the speed at which this other vehicle is coming into the lane, and then time its entrance into the lane just behind the other vehicle, but doesn't realize that it's actually pulling a trailer. So it allows the vehicle itself to pass, but makes connection with the trailer. So here we have a real life clip of the vehicle just ahead of the camera's vehicle moving into this middle lane, but a faster vehicle coming down the right side here, coming at quite a bit of speed. So I'm just going to progress the video up to this point where we see this faster moving vehicle making contact, and just to go back a bit to this point. So in this position, the driver of the vehicle ahead here, it would have been very difficult for him to see, even if he checked his rear view mirror, of the other vehicle coming at speed down the right-hand lane. It may have been positioned where this particular vehicle is actually blocking any view of that vehicle. And likewise, for the faster speeding vehicle, the view of this vehicle changing lanes may have been obscured. And so caught by surprise, tries to squeeze between the truck now and this vehicle, but actually catches the tire of the truck, and so is flipped on its side. And so I'm just going to let this video continue to run for a while just to show you how far this vehicle is actually sliding down the road. So quite a distance before it comes to a stop. So here we have a situation where this driver is pulling into the middle lane and a driver from the opposite side of the road wanting to do the same thing. The vision of each other is obscured by the truck, and so they both try to pull into the middle lane and collide. What I wanted to point out here is that this driver particularly could have merged into the middle lane at a much shallower angle. Instead of cutting across at such a right angle in order to get into this lane, perhaps they've taken a bit of a shallower curve here to allow for any space for vehicles coming from this side of the road. So obviously not being aware of this vehicle, but just to make the assumption in crossing the road that there may be a vehicle wanting to pull into this lane. Had it taken a bit of a shallower curve in merging into this lane, it would have allowed more space on this side for any oncoming vehicles. So here we have the driver ahead indicating to go into the faster moving lane, and as we said in the previous animation and real life clip, whenever you pull into a quicker moving lane, be in expectation that others are wanting to do the same. And so we've got this driver stuck behind this vehicle, and so likewise tries to pull into the middle lane. And there they connect. We'll see just as I progress the video. But just prior to changing lanes, we want to have situational awareness. So not just check our rear view mirrors, but also glance to the side of the vehicle, because had he checked his rear view mirror, he wouldn't have seen this vehicle. It would have been out of the range of the rear view mirror. So changing lanes, check your rear view mirror before changing lanes, and also look to the lane that you're wanting to cross into, to the side of that, to see if there are any vehicles in an adjacent lane wanting to do the same thing. I'm just going to pause the video for a moment, because notice that this question's asked, who do you think insurance will rule at fault? So use your keyboard shortcuts, as I mentioned in a previous video. If you go to the website, you'll see the About Tips YouTube web page, and there the keyboard shortcuts where you can progress the video backwards and forwards. So just go backwards, have a look at this scenario again, and you try and determine who's at fault here, and it'll be interesting to hear what your observations are in the commentary section of this particular video. So looking forward to hearing from you. please like, subscribe, and get notified.